Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Ball Over Passion. We're here to talk about the United review. That's 2 for 2 in top six clubs because Mikel can't beat them. But we are here. We're here to talk about it. We're joined by Nick, a good friend of ours.
Hey
How you
everyone,
doing? Good.
I'm good. I'm excited for this.
Absolutely. It's always a good time when you beat United, especially for people that are a little older and even fans that are normally when you beat United, it just hits different, as the kids say. But Kurt,
Of
mate, how you
course.
doing? Good.
I'm good, brother. I'm good. It's just it's nice to finally have a couple of wins on the bounce, get that losses out of the way, and just have a nice week where there's no one panicking for a bit. So let's see how we do.
Yeah, so you know what, we're gonna get into it because guys, we're cognizant of the Champions League that's gonna come up, so we want you guys to make sure you catch both. So, guys, I think this was a weird game for me. Nick, we were like very briefly talking offline when we do face United. You were saying that you kind of had a pit in your stomach, and I can understand.
Yeah,
Typically for us, while the Emirates is actually a pretty fruitful ground, we just sometimes play down to their level. How are you feeling about the lineup and when you first saw things? And I'll probably put up the tactical board as you're talking so people can get a reminder of what we're looking at here. But how are you feeling kind of with the match?
yes. So lineup wise, I think it was pretty predictable. Uh, I expected Tomiyasu to be in the squad, but I didn't expect him to start because he's been out since like what January 1st or something. I mean he came back briefly but didn't play. But yeah, he's been out for a while, so I expected him not to play. And then other than the right back spot, the 10 other players, I expected them to be identical to the Chelsea game, and they were. And then, the only contention spot was Cedric or Holding as the fourth defender, which, Holding would have meant wide at right back as it was against Chelsea. But yeah, I thought it was going to be Cedric because it was with Holding at center back. We saw how he struggled a lot on the ball, and I think compared to Chelsea, which was going to be a game that especially we're so low in confidence that there were going to be spells where we'd get pinned back, and that way we needed Holding's aerial presence. But in a game like United, where it was predictable that we're going to have a lot of the ball for some spells, Cedric made sense, and especially overloading the right side. Tejes, Varane is out of form. Matic is very slow nowadays, so I think it was a good choice. And as I said, I wasn't feeling extremely confident because this is the kind of game that we always, as you said, play down to our competition, especially when it's a big team that is not performing at the moment, especially with United. We always do that. Logically, obviously, expected a decent win and a comfortable win. Scoreline was comfortable in the end. Performance wasn't until the third goal, but I think all that matters is that we got the win, and it's very important. I heard someone said, I can't remember who it was another podcast I was listening to that said, well, obviously it would have been better points wise if we had beaten the previous three games and lost the United and Chelsea games. But I think in terms of momentum going to this and to the business end of the season, maybe this is better. Going through our sort of last rough spell to get out all of the bad performances that our players had in them, and now go to the last. Yeah, no, that was you, but I also heard it in a podcast after the United game.
Yeah,
I
no,
don't
but
know.
I remember
Yeah,
saying on Twitter earlier before we came on this
yeah,
about how I'd rather slay some giants instead of if I
yeah,
had the choice between 3 losses against those teams and having the momentum coming in against going into the business end of the season, because I feel like a lot of the narrative has been that we aren't able to beat these top 6 teams this season, which we haven't objectively, but now we've got both performances away and home, two of them slain at home now in Tottenham and Man
yeah.
United. So it's good to it's good to gain some confidence, and I'd rather have the confidence come later than earlier, because I don't want to go into these last like 5 or 6
Yeah.
games just imagine going into West Ham now and
Yeah,
thinking, oh, holy
on
crap.
2 losses in a row, and then
Yeah,
it's going to be three, and then we have Spurs. It would have been very,
thank you,
very
Lucas.
nervy.
I'll do that now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
thank you.
guys, like I've talked about this for a little bit, kind of on previous reviews and previews, but for this young team to, um, I think a lot of people got nervous with the previous 3 games, right? And to beat your rivals, I think the self belief that it does for players in this area to kind of beat your rivals is massive. Like it's huge for them, and there's a lot of maybe stuff we can talk about with Saka, the penalty. There was a lot of coming of age moments, and I had talked on Twitter about, this Oba baton pass really that we're seeing kind of with Saka, who had made note of it in pre-match interviews where he was trying to say that, he wants to step into that role. He wants to be that poster boy that Oba was for us. Not so much the captain wise, but that perceived role, that the person that is
The
everyone's going to look
talisman.
up to dig us out of trouble. And I think we saw that to an extent. And he's been doing it for months. It's nothing new. He's been Jordan. Jordan ruled kind of for months, but I think it's really nice when you get a win over rivals, and especially your most hated rivals. There's just something that fans kind of love to lean on with that. There's that story emotional aspect of it, and I think this game was a really tough one to analyze. I don't know about you guys, but on rewatch, I was a lot more comfortable than I was during the game. I still think that
Yeah.
we were really sloppy technically. But let's get in right into the lineups if there were any issues. I know, Nick, you had mentioned, Cedric was kind of our only option down there. But I'll be honest with you, I did worry with Sancho because I felt as though that was going to be a mismatch for United to kind of exploit. And they kind of did. And I don't know if
Yeah,
Cedric
but
really.
I wanted to say about this one. I saw like a lot of commentary on Twitter about how Sancho destroyed Cedric. But watching back, I honestly did not notice it. I noticed it in real time, but watching it back, it was obviously that sort of that almost penalty moment, which was just a Cedric fell. It wasn't like he got rinsed or everything. But other than that, there was another moment where Sancho went by him and El Neni and won a corner kick. But like other than that, I don't think uh, Sancho like especially destroyed Cedric 1v1. I think it was mostly like Cedric, especially in the first half, being extremely sloppy on the ball and giving it away a couple of times to Sancho. But other than that, I thought he fared pretty well. Now, not that Sancho is like Sancho has been really bad 1v1 this year in the Prem, but I think that was kind of overstated, to be honest. That narrative about Sancho and Cedric.
I think it was just probably because they used Sancho more as an outball, so maybe it was less about him getting over Cedric in a 1v1 battle, but they kind of had him in space, and I think just people got nervous because they knew what Cedric could be, and versus what
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
happened. But in terms of the game, Curran made we got the almighty pivot option again. And I think it played a significant role when you look at kind of the buildup. I don't think we were actually on our best on the ball in this game, particularly in the first half. But Martin Odegaard, for me, really stepped up between kind of the 25th minute and, that 50th minute, where I think at the back we were struggling. And Gabriel was another one on the ball that I thought did really well between the lines to step up, find people quite early. What did you make kind of that initial build-up, having an extra man in the back if, Ramsdale wasn't the greatest, White is still a little bit struggling, kind of in possession. What do you make of the initial start that we made?
I mean, it's key that we have that extra man. There's no way we win this game without it. I feel that we're so isolated in terms of that 3-1 build up and not being able to get the ball out of that first phase. And yeah, it's very, very crucial that we manage to just keep that numerical superiority, able to overload at the right time, uh, especially as the game went on. Like with the ability to basically get out and just even wind the clock down a bit throughout the game when we needed to just get that breath back, just play a couple of passes, someone put their ball on their foot, um, uh, under their foot. So just basically slow the tempo of the game down and keep it at our pace. I don't know if you guys noticed it as well, but for me, it was a lot of us trying to just sort of calm the game down at points because they had like their moments of just like, okay, like the Alanga chance earlier on, or I think that's a great moment to talk about because obviously we'll talk about the Tavares goal, but the Alanga moment, they had that moment, everyone started shaking a bit, and then we just kind of just calmed it down. We made our passes. we basically formed our triangles, and we're able to form that build up that's able to get us out of trouble. And I think a lot of people were worried going into the season about how playing out of the back will suit us, transitioning from three at the back. I remember, I mean, I actually watched our Brentford video back today about how that Brentford game goes, and I remember we were all. I mean, I wasn't there. We were all saying we need to go back to three at the back. We need to get that numerical superiority because the injuries we had, and yeah, it's good to see that even with the two at the 2-3 build up that we were doing, it was secure. We were able to just keep it going. We were able to basically use it as our trump card. So it was good to see, very very good to see,
Well,
and
I think what it
keeping
does
the in the
for
right
me
zones. Yeah,
is when you talk about just really quickly like a numerical advantage, just having that extra free man in the pivot kind of frees that central overload that a lot of teams were doing. We kind of just got scouted. They started doing that 1-2 press that we employ quite regularly. That in fact, we're going to show some pictures we didn't. We really disrespected United. I actually felt, well, not disrespect. It's just I don't think they have the players to hurt you kind of in the middle of the park like other teams did. But other teams were doing this 1-2 press kind of on us, sitting on our DM, and we were unable to get out of trouble. And so by adding an extra man there, you're able to kind of open um, kind of more escape valves deeper, and you kind of open these vertical channels that we're going to really see with Martin Odegaard, who was dropping deep to great effect. Eddie, who was dropping deep and did a very, very good game. And, maybe a really quick shout out is Ronaldo is probably the only one to keep their head held high with that United team for me,
yeah,
because he
Yeah,
had a
hundred
very good
percent.
game himself. And he's the one that always plays to an occasion. Whatever I want to say about that boy, when it's an occasion, he steps up, even at his age. So it was quite crazy. But you know what? Let's get right into kind of the game. And I think the biggest talking points that we're going to kind of look at is really this difference in our pressing structure and kind of our block and what we did. So really quickly, and I'll set it up for Nick for you to talk about as well. But we had been doing a 1-2 press. We've been doing it kind of all season. We sit somebody on their DM, typically Martin Odegaard, and then we have our forwards line up in a two, and we typically press to one side that way. But in this game, we went a very typical 4-4-2. You kind of see a block here, and the cover shadows happen from our wingers. We really just step up. We go man to man when the ball switches, but we don't respect their pivot. Matic and McTominay, we kind of block the lanes of entry into them, and we guide stuff wide, and we didn't trust them to be found between the lines. And we kind of did this every time they had possession of the ball. And really, Elneny was really important about making sure that that entry pass to kind of McTominay or Matic or whoever went to help wasn't made. What do you make kind of maybe this first photo kind of in the block and what we were doing out of possession in response to United?
Yeah, so I think, yeah, as you said, I agree. It was, from what I noticed, it was a very standard 4-4-2 block. It's very symmetrical. As you say, we've seen Saka pushing up and making it like a 3-1-2, but this or a 4-3-1-2. But this time it was a straight 4-4-2, and I think, as you said, the aim was to press the two center backs, and I think Odegaard and Ketia was. Defensively, they really set the tone, because from minute one they were super aggressive, especially Odegaard, and who was on Varane. Who Varane is not only the weaker ball player out of him and Lindelof, but he was also playing on his wrong side. And as you can see here, Odegaard is blocking the passing lane to Matic, and is also showing at the same time is showing Varane onto his weaker left foot, and forcing the pass to Tejas, and Tejas then is being hounded by Saka, who immediately steps up. It's the classic pressing trigger that all teams use. The touchline. The player only has a 180-degree angle, and so it's very easy to press him very aggressively without, and it will be hard for him to escape. And then obviously he would try. I'm not sure we have this in the screenshot, but he then tried to go forward to Sancho, and Cedric would step up. So we've seen this a lot. Those triggers with the fullback very aggressively pushing up to block the forward passing lane. I remember a game where we did this a lot was against West Ham, where they had a similar
Yeah.
problem with I don't know who was playing on the left. Was it Diop? I think it was him, and
It was Diop, yeah.
yeah, it was Dawson on the right and Diop on the left, who, like Varane, not a very average ball player, maybe even below average, and also on his weaker side. So we pressed him, we forced him to go wide, played into the touchline, and then sort of build a cage around those guys with El Neni, especially being the guy to block the diagonal balls towards the half, towards the kickoff spot, where
Yeah, and
you would have
what I
Ronaldo
really
chilling
like
there.
is like Martin Odegaard does this really well, and so did Eddie. But they were making these we call them banana runs, and so when you're talking about Nick forcing Varane onto
Yeah,
his
the
weak foot,
curved runs. Yeah,
yeah, they were doing these kind of curved runs to block the space into the pivot, but also they were forcing kind of the center backs to the lateral sides, and they were really using that touch line. But I don't think we trusted Matic or McTominay to drop in between the lines because we saw this basically with Man City, but we did fear and we put somebody on Rodri. We saw this in other games, and I think if Pogba had been playing and he was fit, I'm unsure that we actually employ this pressing structure because if you really look at it, we kind of gambled where they didn't have the ability to find people between the lines, either through De Gea, which we know has no distribution like that. He's not Ramsdale. And I don't think that Matic and McTominay are progressive enough or have the speed anymore, particularly with Matic, to kind of step into midfield in the same way that he does. He's still incredibly
yeah,
composed, but I
yeah,
think that was
yeah.
really the story of it.
Yeah, Matic in his peak would have destroyed that pressing structure, but at this
Yeah.
point, he's too slow to do it. He can't really receive on the turn and dribble past people like he would do when he was playing under Conte or Mourinho back in the day at Chelsea.
Exactly, and we kinda gambled to really leave this pivot because in theory, like, this actually for us, if if I was us right now and I'm seeing this, I would expect us to play out of this really quite nicely with Ramsdale, who could find either, that I think
Yeah,
that's McTominay down there, and you'd be off, right? And, I'll go to Curran, mate, you're kinda next, where it's kind of exactly this, where Matic was marked out. Matic was the one likely to drop between the lines to kind of form something of an overload. But really, what this pressing structure did is we kind of disrespected them a bit. What did you make of us gambling that Matic couldn't make use of the space that he had? And I think you don't see it on screen, but El Neni is right behind, kind of in this corner, so he is there to close the space. But really, this idea of leaving the pivot alone in a hole because we bet that United wouldn't be able to play out did work. But what did you make of that press?
Basically, we we just saw that their weakness was their centre backs not being able to play the ball out of our press, and we identified that, and we really understood that if we wanted to, we could really press them and make sure that they were unable to take advantage of basically getting around our press. They're not press resistant defenders. They're not someone that you want to basically a carrying ability. I mean, I ironically, if they had Maguire here, you would say that okay, maybe he would be able to carry it out. I know that the United fan bases is going on about how that he can't play out. He'll just gallop into the midfield and he'll lose it. But the issue is he will get to the midfield. I mean, at this moment in time, they're shut in. They're just trying to play to the fullback. And I don't know if you guys remember. I think White said it. They someone asked him why he doesn't pass to Tomiyasu a lot, and he goes, "Well, the ball to the center midfield is the ball to play because it has the verticality with it and the ability to get the ball out of the first phase." And that's what we restricted them to. We restricted them to centre back to fullback balls. And when you're putting Tellez in that situation and you're putting Delo in that situation, they're low down the pitch, and they're going to have to do a lot to get out of that first phase. So we're putting pressure on their defenders and basically isolating the one player I feel personally. I don't know about you guys, but the one player who I would say, okay, I don't want this guy running a progression for them, it would be Matic. I don't care if he's 36; he's still got the ability. As we can see for the assist for Ronaldo, he's still got that ability to play a pass, to really control the tempo of a game. And that doesn't leave you. I just think his fitness is obviously the issue, and he can't do it for 90 minutes. But we identified where the issues were, what the danger would be, and the danger would be is letting Matic run the show. And we identified that we needed to stop that, and we gambled that by pressing their centre backs, we wouldn't be able to have to deal with that. So I think that's the main point.
Yeah, and I think what is really important is when you start looking at the pivot, when you do finally have them beat the press, and they're kind of in that weird little mid block with United here. And Mohamed El Neni is the one that was really pressuring to kind of make sure that we kept it lateral, that they didn't find areas between the lines, that we didn't have Bruno Fernandez in space, that we didn't find Ronaldo, who again must say had a really good game. And you know what? For him, it was just efficiency of touches because when they did get out, and they did get out at times, he was just very efficient in laying it off in smart areas. So I think he had a really good game. But I think Mohamed El Neni is kind of an underrated aspect of this game where it's not just deeper in possession where he carries a benefit right now. It's just off the ball. We're able to kind of press high a little bit. I think that we need to close the distances though, guys. I'll be honest with you. So I think not everything is good and bad here, but we are really lucky that they didn't have presence between the lines and that United lack a midfield to really make things hurt because when you do receive kind of in this area, and if they had somebody that was able to find, Bruno Fernandez and stuff between the lines, I probably would have rather gone with the 1-2 press. But we did gamble. And I'll go to Nick kind of really to talk about kind of our in possession shape where look, Ramsdale had some loose touches to begin with. I think this pass earlier, there was like a couple minutes before, and he doesn't find a man, and we kind of get under the cosh where we give up a ball really poorly. But Ramsdale was trying these passes between the lines, and I don't mind when he tries it, but he did kind of act as an extra person in the back because United actually pressed, which I was quite surprised at. It wasn't anything fancy. It was quite man to man, and they used their three, hopefully to stifle Muhammad Al Neni. But as you can see, no one was really on him specifically. They used it more to block space. What did you make of kind of Ramsdale's importance in finding people between the lines? Whether it was Odegaard when he dropped deep, or even Mo, who did offer himself as an option constantly.
Yeah, I think obviously Ramsdale for us is able to act as the extra man in the build-up, something which De Gea doesn't do for United, and the screenshot you're showing right now, it's a sort of a similar situation to the one you showed where it was us where it was us pressing them, but Ramsdale being the extra man means they have to account for him, and obviously. He's going vertical in this instance, but the fact that he's there also allows the center backs to open a bit wider and also be an option themselves instead of just whereas we could go 1v1 versus the center backs without having to worry about the keeper. And yeah, I think Ramsdale obviously didn't have a great game technically, but he still had two lovely line breakers. So, I can't remember the second one, but I remember the first one.
Ironically, kind of through where we got out. I think it was just here, and he finds Mo. But
yeah, I think it was. Yeah, it was fantastic, and again, sort of. The interior spots are extremely important in the build-up, and I think especially ever since we switched to the 4-3-3 in December. Not that we play a 4-3-3 in this game, but we sort of used those similar angles that the 4-3-3 creates in the by finding the interiors. Odegaard on the right half space, and then usually it would be Smith Rowe or even Nketiah dropping towards the left. But yeah, I think it was Ramsdale did a good job in general. But I do expect him to be a bit less loose. I think, ironically, his biggest strength when he came in was like he was very good going long, but it has kind of been shaky recently. He's thrown a few balls like to the touchline going straight out, but I think it's a confidence thing, and I think he'll improve. But as you said, El Neni did an excellent job as the number 6, or sort of as the midfielder that drops in. Created a lot of angles for us. Especially when United overloaded the side and they pressed the fullback as well, and then he was at times, instead other than going long, he was the only option for White or Gabriel to pass to. And I think he did an excellent job. He was very important, and sort of the obviously the two big changes that have sort of got our season back on track was Eddie for Laka, but also El Neni for Sambi, and he's done an excellent job. On the ball, I don't think he provides. I think other than being a bit more composed and experienced, he doesn't provide much more than Lokonga. But on the defensive side, I want to get into this earlier. He was fantastic at when pressing he would usually be the man that would stay further back, with Xhaka at times pushing forward to mark the pivots. He was excellent, like screening the back line, like not letting Bruno and Ronaldo have free space to receive between the lines. So Elneny was a player that I especially wanted to give a shout out to for this game. I thought he did an excellent job on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, and you and me both. That's why I really wanted to talk about him mainly in this. And we'll get into the instances now, but I think that was really important because I think that was the story of the match when you really look at it. Because I don't think, while United had some opportunities for sure, don't get me wrong, but I think the big issue was the 4-4-2 press and who was able to get out of it. Because United did press, and I was kind of surprised that they did press. Now, it wasn't quite as structured. It wasn't quite 4-4-2. It was a little bit more man-to-man, and they did kind of use their 4-3-3 to almost block space versus going touch tight like us. But I think our ability to play out was the difference maker here, and we were ironically extremely efficient once again, kind of in the box. And so, Curran, I'll go to you. The start happens. We're basically looking at all this stuff. We're nervous for the game, and within the first 2 minutes, boom, 1-0. And I ironically think that actually hampered us. And maybe I'll explain it really quickly, but the idea of going ahead so early, maybe I'm being harsh, almost made it the thought in the players' minds go, this will be really easy. And I had a feeling that we were just very loose technically because in possession, we still weren't great.
No.
And I think what proceeded throughout the game, and we'll talk about it in the second half, I think United really stepped up in the second half. But first, in the start, you get a goal like that. Nuno Tavares, chaotic knee slide, chaotic player, some people might say. But the boy's high and wide, and he does his job there. And I think it's a really quick transition moment. But what did that do for you? First goal in the first 2 minutes in a big, big derby.
I mean, do you remember the preview? Do you remember what I was talking about? Do you remember I was talking about that Xhaka left half space ball across to Saka? And it just came out. I was like, yes, there we go. There's the one. Basically, Xhaka gets in the left half space, crosses it to Saka, and Saka takes a lovely touch. I mean, fair play to the hair. There's not much more he could do there.
I think the big thing made is on Dallo really quickly. Sorry,
yeah, Dallo.
I mean, even in the preview, like I was mentioning, that's what we needed to exploit in behind, right? Because I felt that Dallo and I don't think Lindelof would do well with blindside runs, and no one's tracking Nuno. It's really quite poor. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Bakayo cuts in, he shoots, and I was going to say it's poor from both Varane and Dallo there because both of them see, and neither of them collapse to clear, and it's none of them track runners, none of them you'd expect at least someone to either get on the line or just hook it or something. But both of them are ball watching. Both of them are on the back of their feet, and Nuno isn't. He gambles, he makes that run, and he gets his goal. I was saying after the game, and I wanted to hear what you guys thought. Nuno reminds me, like he has that Eboué gene. Like he can be amazing, he can be utter rubbish, and he's a bit mental. But this game, like when he hit that knee slide, I was like, oh, for God's sake, I don't know. The guys in the comments, I'm sure you might watch a bit more cricket than these two do. But if you remember Simon Jones, the 05 Ashes, just basically hits the knee slide, he basically ruptures one of his the tendons in his knee, and I was thinking, don't injure yourself on a goddamn knee slide, please no. So it was chaotic. It was very it was a very chaotic start. But the one thing I will agree with is once that goal went in, we kind of just sort of leant back a bit. I don't think anyone was expecting it. I thought the minute that went in, I thought, hang on a second, we're going to do the Ozil Sanchez game against United? Are we going to go for their throats and kill it? But we decided. I think maybe I think a lot of it is fatigue. A lot of the mistakes that we're going to see, and a lot of the narratives that go along with this game, I think, are just fatigue and just general mental fatigue, injury fatigue, lots of loose touches, lots of loose mistakes in build-up, technical security not on point, and the same thing that happened against Chelsea. We were very loose with the ball at times in that first half, and I think we kind of got a bit too overexcited, and then sort of tried to retreat into our block and sort of play out the back and really get hold of the game. But it just got to the point where you're just thinking, okay, we're letting them back into this game. We need to go. We need to go again. We need to get the ball up the pitch. I think we're playing around the back a bit too much. Let's go and do something. I mean, what did you think, George?
Well, I think really quick, this is a young team. And I think that, I was talking in group chats. That's the third game in a week, and we haven't had many of those as a team like that this season. And so I agree with you. I think it's less so a little bit on fatigue, even though we have a lot of injured players walking. We do need the rest, by the way, but it's just a little bit more psychologically with me. And I think it's kind of really seen with Ramsdale in like the first 10 minutes, because as a coach, what you always like to say is after a big event, I want the first 5 minutes after that to be calm possession. And what I mean by that is you want to try to kill the excitement out. So that could be either side of a goal, either side of a penalty shout, either side, of a half, let's say. You don't want to make mistakes and give a chance for a team to kind of respond really quickly. You want to control that momentum. And I think I'll go to Nick really quickly, because in the first 10 minutes, right, we score that goal, but then it's still kind of chaotic. I don't think we put our foot on the ball properly. We don't have necessarily the 65, 70% possession, and we squeeze. We kind of played the transition game a little bit into United hands, and Ramsdale forces a ball that he's trying to find Emil Smith Rowe between the lines, but he just gives an opportunity for United to attack right off the bat. And I think if Bruno Fernandes is 10% better than what he was all game, we do get punished. He's left kind of alone there, and I don't know how he misses. I'll be honest with you. But what did you make kind of that initial spell post the goal, where it seemed as though that Ronaldo was finding smart stuff between the lines? And while we weren't stretched, I thought that they had some really dangerous situations.
Yeah, so it's an interesting one because this happened a lot in the Chelsea game. Even though it was a much different game, it was a game where we didn't go in with many expectations, and we were sort of expected to sit back after scoring the goals. Whereas in this one, after scoring the second minute, we were expected to score two more, right? So yeah, I don't know. I think it's all mental with this team right now. I think in general, as a general comment, even though we've been fantastic since December, I feel like we have never played as well as we can. I think the only game in that round where we played like 10 out of 10 stuff was against Man City at home. And I think in general, it has been, I've not been super impressed with obviously some of the results that we grinded out, like Wolves at home, Wolves away. Both games were incredible in terms of how I didn't expect us getting the result, and we did. Villa away, some other ones, but in general, we haven't played that great, and I think that's why we've deserved all of our wins. I'm not saying that, but I think sort of the rough spell was to be expected a little bit, even though I was extremely disappointed when it happened. I thought it had been coming, right? I think Villa, if they had a little more quality, would have been punished. Thought the same, about some other games as well during that run. And, especially we hadn't been playing that great towards the end of our winning run. And then we have those three defeats on top of each other. So I knew that we were going to need something really special to get back to playing great stuff. And I think, what I'm trying to say here is I think all of it is mental. So, players, we saw how shaky we were against Chelsea, even though we've been really good defensively for most of the season. We couldn't string a pass, we couldn't block a shot, we couldn't do anything in the first half. Fixed up in the second, but then against United, we begin the game with I think we kept possession for the entire first 2 minutes and scored on top of that. There's a clip circulating on Twitter, which is the goal fast forwarded, and it's 2 minutes straight possession and then the goal. So I was very happy about that. I'm yeah, we turned a corner. That Chelsea second half, we beat them 2-0 in the second half, and we defended pretty well and attacked well. I was yeah, we're back on track. But lots of nervousness all around. Lots of nervousness the entire game. Was something we saw against Chelsea. It was something we saw first half against Brighton. For the entire game against Southampton, just a lot of nervousness around, and sort of the fans were great. but you could feel it from them as well. There were some moments where it got extremely nervy, and I don't think it was that bad after the first goal. I don't think it was like our worst period of the game. We had like a couple of other periods that were worse than that. I think it was mostly that there was that Bruno chance, which was just a bad pass from Ramsdale, and then Alanga burning Tavares for pace. But I think it's gonna take one more good result, I think, and one more good spell for like our team to end the season really well. Like, I'm gonna be honest, like right now, if we play the way we played against United and Chelsea, like in general, in terms of our passing and how nervy everyone was and how we couldn't defend, I don't think we're gonna make top 4 if we play like this, unless like Spurs drops all their games. But this team, I don't think goes and beats West Ham and Leeds and Newcastle and Everton, like not because of quality or anything, just because of I think they've stumbled upon a mental block. So I'm really hopeful that we ended the game really well. I mean, we're going to talk about this later, I'm assuming, but like we ended the game really well, and I hope just like we did against Chelsea, and then we carried it forward for the first 2 minutes. So I hope that like for the next game we ended the game well against United. So against West Ham, I hope that we can carry on the good passing and everything. I think it's just a matter of like not being able to pass. It's a matter of confidence for me, not tactics or quality.
I think it's completely mental, only because of how we acted post the Granit Xhaka goal and that security of, okay, we have that kind of lead right now. We have something to protect. There isn't something that I'm stressing about. And the way that the team was able to close out the game was really impressive to me. I think when you looked at it, though, it is fair to say we've had the opposite story of this season in the last 2 games, where we've maximized efficiency in the final third, but have been a little bit poor in our compactness. And I think that's what stresses people about the top 4, but maybe what they were seeing. So we weren't as compact as we have been in that great run, but we have been really ruthless in the final third. Amazing efficiency, really, when you look at it. But really quickly, guys, around the table, Alanga penalty, yay or nay? I'll go to Curran first. I think no way.
I mean, for me, no. Look, there's the contact that occurs. It's not enough to cause someone to go down. I just don't feel like there was any ability to say, okay, that contact was consequential to the action of the man falling down. And because he goes over the arm, right? It's almost like he's put his arm over the guy, like he's a manager or something. He's put his arm over him and had a bit of a conversation. But the contact that's there is not so significant enough to cause a collision or a fall. So no, not for me.
Yeah, I'll put it this way. Like, if you imagine Saka trying to run off Maguire at the Old Trafford and being pulled down like that, we're never getting a penalty in a million years. So no penalty for me. Like, not enough. And we were not getting that. So
the perfect one is Maguire on Tomiyasu at the Old Trafford.
Yeah, different situation, but they didn't give it. So like, and it was much more played and that.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. And then you know what, guys? The Dallo chance, which, by the way, I don't think that's a breakdown. That's just a brilliant hit.
Yeah, that's just a good shot.
Yeah, like I don't think it's a breakdown in anything. But really, and it doesn't happen until about the 25th minute, which is where I ironically felt that Odegaard started getting into the game. Who had a really he was almost anonymous a little bit, but not as much as Emile Smith-Rowe. I didn't see Emile Smith-Rowe.
No, Emile was just horrible. I didn't even horrible. I just didn't see him at all in the game. I think Chelsea was more an Emile game, and this game was more towards our pivot. And Bukayo dominated the game. I think the pivot was the engine room of this game. I think if there's one thing to take away from this performance is this is the Xhaka El Neni performance. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I mean, but when you're looking at it kind of around that 25th minute mark, we get the Eddie Nketiah chance where Mo steps up right off a second ball. Yeah. He finds Odegaard with a beautiful one-touch through ball. Eddie's in space, and I'm like, son, you got to finish it. You got to bury it. You put it either sides of the keeper there. You give him the kind of the deer in headlights. Boom, it's over. But, I'm not too hard on Eddie because
he kind of panicked. I think there was a bit of an element that he thought he was offside.
Yeah.
So he just kind of took
lovely touch, by the way.
Locally. Yeah, he did everything good, and he got a lot of power to that hit, but it just was straight at the keeper.
I
Yeah,
think he went for power over placement there, and I think that
Yeah,
situation, you need to basically put it in a corner. It's not like he's. I think that he gets a good height for De Gea as well. I feel like that's a very savable height. I mean, as a keeper, as a former keeper myself, like you just go to the one side, and it's just it's fairly. It's not like it's an up save. It's basically just horizontal, and it's not really a.
yeah.
You're not really challenging the keeper there.
it's so
A
simple,
lot,
mate.
yeah.
Honestly, it's low and hard. It's nothing like you just got to go low and
Not
hard
even hard,
placement.
just low
Um,
and in the corner.
yeah,
That
put it to one sides and you're in the
yeah.
clear. But then guys like 30, 40 seconds later, I'm not sure exactly, but we get the Saka penalty and the Eddie Nketiah offside sequence where,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which was a good play from us again in the half. And people are
Yeah,
smart.
Odegaard, brilliant play. Yeah,
That's
he's really
both
good at that.
the Eddie chance that we just talked about and this one.
Yeah, yeah,
Brilliant
yeah,
touches from Odegaard.
yeah.
That little
Odegaard,
back heel.
yeah, he's fantastic at like that little chipped, low chipped ball,
Mm,
like that travels very little. I mean, he did that against Leeds with that Smith Rowe goal in the end. Like the ball travels very little and doesn't, but he gets it very very well, very correct. I think that and like the right half space cross towards the far post. I think these two are like the main two passes he has at his skill set, and they're both very useful, especially when we get a really good striker.
And Saka right before, I think there was a little video going about on Twitter, kind of where Saka bodies. I want to
Bruno,
say it was, yeah, Bruno.
Bruno, yeah,
And he explodes into space. And this is the part of the game where both Odegaard and Saka really started to get bright, right? Like that
yeah.
25th
yeah,
minute mark, they really turned it on for like a 2-3 minute period. And we were just ecstatic. Saka makes the qualitative overload on that right hand side, takes out 2 or 3 men. He cuts inside, finds Odegaard, who does a lovely chip inside to Saka, who follows. He doesn't just ball watch. This is what I love about Saka. He does the job to get us out of trouble, gives it
yeah,
off, and he'll make the run beyond. That goal doesn't happen without him willing to not watch his pass. He's like, okay, I'm not going to sit there and admire what I've just done. I'm going to make an impact and still explode
Mm.
beyond the line. And yeah, like I think he's very smart in winning that penalty because Eddie was offside, who then ironically does a really great finish there. Like he finishes
yeah,
dinner really, really well,
yeah,
very composed, and he doesn't
yeah.
snatch at it. He makes amends. But then in the end, guys, penalty. People are shouting England. Everyone's minds. I'll be honest with you. Like I look at Saka and I think he's a good penalty taker, but he's not one with great ball striking yet. And so for me,
Yeah.
especially from a standstill, like for him right now, he still works on he when he strikes the ball well, which by the way he has great technique. It's when it's on the run. I find when he's got
Yeah.
momentum, he can dig out a really great shot. But when it's a standstill, I don't trust him to quite have the power quite yet. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, I'm nervous. I'm not gonna lie. I'm nervous.
Oh, I
Yeah,
was
same.
horribly nervous.
He took it. I wanted.
Yeah, I just hate left-footed penalty takers. It just always looks like it's going to the same side. Like it happens a lot. Like if you think about it, like even Messi is not a great penalty taker.
I mean, we were
It's
saying
something
it
that happens
before
a lot.
that
I don't even know why.
we were saying it before about
Yeah, we're
how
saying
he
that
kind of
after the Chelsea
telegraphs.
game. Yeah,
Yeah,
he
because he kind of
telegraphed.
telegraphs where he puts them,
Yeah,
and you could tell, like with that penalty, he could tell he was opening up his body just to put it to that side. It was quite obvious. I don't know how why the hair went the other way, but it was fairly obvious where he was going. But yeah, I was so happy for him because it's those kind of moments that puts those demons to rest. And I said just straight after he took it, that's what he did. He put them to rest. He can just move on from this moment. I feel like this whole season has been about his redemption and him just putting the demons that he had to rest. This the claims that he wasn't producing enough in terms of output, the Euros debacle. Not really a debacle, but like the
He has 11 goals in the Premier League. That's
Crazy.
yeah,
You
pretty
know
good.
what,
just mental.
Curran?
Is it 11 or 12?
I've been saying
11, I
on the
think. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
it's
11.
11. Yeah, it's 12 in all comps, I think. But
12
you
and
know what?
that's it. 12 and all comps.
I
Thank you.
I've been having a look at Saka, and I've been saying I've been receiving so much shit that I think he's world class from last season. But I think now what he's doing is he's believing his hype a little bit. And I don't mean that in a bad way, by the way. Like, I don't think he's the least version of arrogant that you could ever find. But I think he needs that arrogance to really become a top player. And we're starting to see him accept those responsibilities. The idea that he's not going to let stuff from past haunt him. He's going to take that penalty. And I don't think he was on it, by the way. I don't know if you guys caught that little quote from Mikel in the press conference, but Saka
Hmm.
did demand to take that penalty. I don't think he was on penalty.
Oh,
It wasn't supposed-
Against
before I
Chelsea, that
forget,
was.
or it
yeah,
was Chelsea, yeah. And
Yeah,
be-
yeah.
and,
Go
and,
ahead.
and from
before I forget, yeah. Did anyone watch back? I don't know. There was a clip was circulating on Twitter, but I don't know if you guys noticed on your rewatch. Mikel, when the VAR happens, he's going to the ref, and he's going,
Yeah,
come on, just
yeah,
go.
I
And
saw
then he
it.
turns around and he goes, get to the crowd. He tries to
Yeah.
G up the crowd. It was an amazing moment. I feel like this team is really connecting at the Emirates. I feel like there's a real connection between the team and the fans, and Mikel and the fans, and I think he's really reinstigated this whole idea that we are, unity, and how we are as a fan base and a club now. I hope he tries to extend that. I know your ancient phone is going off in the background, George. But what do you think of the unity discussions that the theme of this season? I would say.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it kind of on past pods. This is the next statement beyond the trust the process. But also, I've talked about it with refereeing decisions kind of in the past too, that you have to earn your respect as a big club back. And, this is kind of what we're doing. You're noticing a lot of the players rush the referee, pressure them into decisions. Mikel, when he's kind of going up there, he doesn't know whether it's right or wrong. He's pressuring the referee. Look, Sir Alex Ferguson did it. Wenger did it in a different way. All the big managers and the big clubs do these things, and they're really important in terms of establishing your dominance at the top again. And I think we're slowly starting to see it. And I'm not going to lie, a lot of the 50-50 refereeing decisions this game kind of went our way. And I was happy about it because you force your own luck at the end of the day, and this is part of us achieving that next step. And I think a lot of the boys believing that they can reach that next step is making sure that you do those type of things to win games. Those are the fine margins that you do want to win in those situations, so that you don't give momentum to a rival team and a rival club, especially somebody like United and a dangerous rival where all the emotions are sky high like that. These are big moments in the game, right, guys? Like, I think if we don't secure the goals when we do, we could have been in trouble because United were knocking. They had those two quick chances,
Yeah.
and we needed a little bit of inspiration from the boys, but as well a little bit in these decisions to swing that emotional tide. Because I think tactically we would have been fine, but the boys were succumbing to the occasion a little bit, in my opinion. So
Yeah.
we're basically going to get kind of into. I think the second half is kind of the next big talking point because, well, we can quickly talk about the Ronaldo goal if you guys want. Because for me, it's a poor man marking job from Gabriel. I think he let some spin.
Yeah,
It's a great
yeah,
pass.
it's on Gabriel for me too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of people like kind of focusing on someone else, but for me, Gabriel's got to do better in marking Ronaldo. But it's a great half volley, makes excellent connection, and it's just a poor thing to concede. It's a lapse in concentration for me. Anything big from either yourself, Nick, or Curran on that goal?
I mean, for me, it was. It's one of those things, you know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where you just have to say, look, he's made a mistake there. It's not a new thing for him, and I just feel like if you want to put that in isolation, just go, okay, fine. Look, you've made the mistake. Get back on the horse and get on it, and then secure yourself technically and shore up the back, and just make sure that you get on and make the most of this game. And I think he recovered well from this. I mean, some of our fan base are very much it's a new thing for them, and they don't really think that he's the one. I just don't see it personally. I think that we need multiple centre backs at this club, and it's not a new thing a new concept to have multiple centre backs in the position, rotate them in and out. So he's a good centre back. I think he's had a poor judgment of error there, and he needs to pick up and get back on the horse.
Yeah, and then it kind of takes us basically into the second half, and I'll be honest with you, I see the Nuno Tavares chance on his right foot, and he skies it high, and I'm like,
Oh
mate, just
God.
control the ball, please. Do me a little. We call this little phrase sometimes, when I have boys that I'm trying to coach, retain, reuse, recycle, and so what that just really simply is, keep the ball, look up, cycle it back. Let's kill the game, slow the tempo of the game down a little bit because, to end the half, the extra 5 minutes really put us under the cosh. And I think this is the part where United kind of grew into the game, if I'm being honest. That period at the beginning of the second half, right until really the Granit Xhaka goal. But Nick, what did you make of that spell of United pressure, essentially from the I don't know, I'd say probably the 50th minute till about the Granit Xhaka goal.
Yeah. So I think it was both us, as I said earlier, just failing to just being nervy on the ball and just being unable to get out. But to be fair, I think some credit has to be given to United because they were very aggressive in terms of, and they managed to sustain pressure for once, which we haven't seen them do much this season, even against the worst of sides. Um, so I think they were decent in general in that during that spell. I think obviously they didn't really create that much before the penalty. I can't remember what minute the penalty was, but then after the penalty they had the Ronaldo offside goal, which seemed like an obvious offside in the beginning, but then when they were drawing the lines, I was panicking. Like it was very very close.
Yeah, their penalty was at
The
like the 55th minute, right? And so
yeah
from that point,
yeah.
I'm losing it at Nuno because again, I said a couple minutes earlier, I'm
Oh
like,
yeah, the penalty was yeah.
because he had just done this
I
slide ball.
sympathize with that because like it's you I'm assuming that like if you're like a professional footballer you have been taught to like not throw your hands up when you're going up for a to contest a corner kick.
He knows
So
what he's
yeah.
doing there. Let's put it that way. Anyone who's played, like, he knows what he's doing there a little bit. I don't think it's like, oh, my hand's too high. I think he knows a little bit what he's doing, and he's sheepish. He's hoping no one's seeing it, but
Yeah.
unfortunately they do. And yeah, you're right. Like even Alenga, kind of right after that. So Bruno Fernandes misses his penalty. He's finds himself in space, has a quick shot pop off on goal, and United do a little bit of sustained pressure to a bit. You talked about Ronaldo,
Yeah.
that offside goal.
And
That
then
was a
the
two.
Dallo chance.
What a finish, by the way. That was a
Oh,
lovely finish from
Ah
him.
yeah, that was
phenomenal.
world class. Yeah.
The tracking to turn, get it on target is just
Yeah.
crazy. It would kind of remind me of that Martinelli goal over the top a little bit, but I think this one was a tougher skill because it's in a tighter
I mean,
Yeah,
space.
that was
just
much
well, but
tougher.
on the Ronaldo topic, his link up play was phenomenal
Sure.
yesterday. I feel like he's one of his um
He
I
ran
feel
it
like
back, mate. He ran it
he
back.
just
He was
ran
the
it back.
best.
Yeah.
He did it, and um you have to respect him. He turned up for this game. He wanted to play, and after the week he's had, I have nothing but respect for him. Just
Yeah.
my heart goes out to him. I hope he recovers, and he has some peace with it. But I just feel like he stood up, and I have nothing but respect for that.
It's a crazy performance in the context of what he's dealing with in his life.
Yeah.
But there's two kind of
100%.
there's two kind of, I guess, like flashpoints for me that are really crazy in this period because United had about 5 minutes there that I was very worried. And then essentially what you've got is that Emil Smith Rowe kind of substitute, but the Aaron Ramsdale save on Delo, I think
Oh,
is
that was
it is
yeah, it was
Yeah,
absolutely
incredible.
unreal. He has no right to kind of make that. And it's something that he struggles with, by the way, because he's not great near post and parrying. This is the one thing I did critique Ramsdale when he
Yeah.
first came in. His parries are quite weak, and he gets a strong hand to that Delo save, which is goal bound. And I think, he does really well for a person that was having a tough game for me. Nothing crazy. He still was really good finding people between the lines. But I think, and I hope that this is the save that kind of ignites him to kind of
Yeah.
focus a little bit.
Yeah,
Because it was a
I think he
phenomenal.
kind of found you saw how happy he was after the penalty. So I
Yeah.
think after yeah, even though he didn't do anything, he celebrated it a lot. And then
Mhm.
obviously I think he was a lot less nervy after that, and it
Yeah.
gave him kind of the confidence to make that save. As like Kern, I've played keeper in the past as well. And it's like it's being a goalkeeper is also a lot about confidence, because when one thing goes wrong for you, you feel like you feel like you're going to concede everything.
Mm.
Or like
It's
when
the
you make
most
one mistake
It's
mental.
on the
very much a
ball. Yeah.
confidence position, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like when you
especially when you're playing for a team that like doesn't face too many shots on target. It's like, well, that's why like Ramsdale obviously didn't work great at Sheffield, but he's really good for us because it's a different side, and he's done that very well this season. I think sort of making the save, like facing his first shot on target in like 50 minutes. It's happened a few times, and he stepped up. Other than his last spell, but and he's lost a lot of confidence. But after the penalty, he looked a lot happier. He looked a lot less nervy and made that incredible save, which is, I think, it's probably his best of the season. Like, it
It,
wasn't. Yeah, I think it was better than the Leicester one, the free kick. I think it was like an incredible chance, very instinctive, and got a very strong wrist to it.
Yeah, I loved it because it's one of his, major weaknesses, and I always love when a
Yeah,
player kind of does and address those things. And look, guys, we have to talk about, the Granit Xhaka goal, which came at the perfect time. It's just, look, this guy doesn't score often, but when he does, they're
when he
bangers.
does, yeah,
Every time they're quality. And I'm not gonna lie, guys, like I don't think there's much tactical there. He just lashes one in. That is just a world
yeah,
class goal. It's a second ball collection, sure, has a look up, sees De Gea kind of a little bit off his center, and says, "I'll have a pop," and it strikes it true hard. And guys, for me, the biggest thing I wanted to talk about is maybe less about the goal, but what this means. I said in group chats, for me, this feels like a watershed moment for what he's done with the fans, especially off the back of that interview. And kind of, for me, I see him staying, and I didn't see a scenario where that was going to be the case this summer. I really didn't. And for me, he's been so important in these last two games where I think the team has struggled, but he stepped up himself. Um, I was so happy when he scored that goal. Of course, it led to us having a little bit more control on the game. Everyone could breathe a sigh of relief afterwards. But what do you guys make of that Granit Xhaka goal? Maybe off the pitch, but as well on the pitch if there's something special about it. I'll go to current mate first.
I mean, for me, we know he has that in him. His ball striking, his ability just to just hit one. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw that top 5 goals that they did for him. They did a video with him and Bird,
Mhm.
and Bird was doing his top 5 saves, and he was doing his top 5 goals. And you look back, and it's just bang, 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 bang. There's so many just the free kicks, the outside the box shots. He's such a clean ball striker, and he has that in his locker. And for me, I said it on Twitter afterwards. He is my player of the month for April. I think without him, we're sunk. I think we're fighting for top 6 without him. If you didn't have him this month, and I feel like he's really built Boris' soul this with that Players Tribune interview, and I have nothing but respect for him. I will say I was one of the people that said if um if there is if there is an ability to sell him and get a good value, I wouldn't mind it. But he's just one of those guys that I just feel like if you if you put him in the right environment, and you don't constantly come at him every week, and you actually show him some love, I think that you see that there's a really 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 good player there. um and his ability just to control the tempo of play, the ability to hit, his ball striking, his leadership on the pitch, the ability to I mean, Mikel has made him and Odegaard his sort of generals on the pitch. The amount of times that Granit goes over to Mikel and just, okay,
He's the
do this, do
coach
this,
on the
do this, do
field,
this.
right, guys? Like him and Odegaard are the coaches on the field. They
Yeah.
step up
So,
when they
so
need
yeah.
instruction. And I guess Nick yourself, mate, like last minute, and maybe we can rope it up into final thoughts because on the whole, as kind of the game for me, I just felt this was just a great self belief win. I mean, there's a lot of some standout performances. Eddie I thought was immense. Granite was really good. Mo, I think for me, I'll put Mo as man of the match. Maybe not for being the most flashy, but for how important he was tactically for me. I felt he was the big reason that we were able to get out when we could and how our press was able to kind of mitigate that pivot. So for me, he was the big tactical piece that I looked at. But for you, mate, transition on the Granit Xhaka goal, maybe your man of the match and final thoughts.
yeah. Want to talk about Granit? Definitely, he's one of my favorite players I've ever seen at Arsenal. He's just we can talk about his leadership and and how he often comes up big with some goals and all that. But I think we kind of overlook at times his quality because he's just a tremendous midfielder. He's so good, and he's shown it. Like, I think against Chelsea, he was for me against Chelsea, he was the best player on the pitch, and he was incredible. He was incredible, and like the way I think he sort of found a newfound. He's sort of had a newfound confidence lately. Maybe it was after his interview. He sort of felt freer because, for example, the Xhaka we saw against Chelsea, he reminded me of like Switzerland Xhaka, who's like he's playing like a midfield controller, like in all phases. It's incredible. Even though for the past couple of years, even though he's been very good for us, it's been more of a shell of himself. He's improved defensively, but like he hasn't been really attempting to he's been hiding a little on the ball, hasn't been receiving it in tight spaces, maybe a bit traumatized by mistakes of the past. He hasn't been attempting to like make his classic like incredible long balls, crossfield switches and everything. Hasn't been attempting to pass it with his weaker foot. Hasn't been shooting at all. Like under Wenger, he was one of our biggest goal threats with his long shots, but ever since Emery came, he hasn't been shooting at all, and it's carried over to Arteta mostly as well. And clearly it's not an instruction because we've seen Partey shoot a lot, so it's not an instruction. Like it's not like Mikel doesn't want his midfielders to shoot. He clearly instructs him to like if you're in a good position, shoot. And Xhaka hasn't been doing that, but he did yesterday. It was just a lovely goal. It's and I think there was a big moment there with the fans, waving kisses, blowing kisses to them, and I think that will push him even further and I think to perform even better in the next few games. Because he's a really confidence player as well. Other than his effort and his quality, he plays a lot better when he's confident. A big game player, and I think if he sort of we've had a lot of issues with like our captains, with him included, and especially this season with Aubameyang and then with Lacazette. I think for me, other than the period where he was out through injury, he's been our captain this season, 100%, as he was last year as well, and as he wasn't during the FA Cup round. He's always been our captain for me, and to me, it will be like a huge moment if we manage to secure top four with him in the side, because that has been sort of the main casual criticism to him by his haters. That ever since he came, we haven't finished top four. So going into the Champions League, if we get it with him, like maybe not captaining the side, but like being a main man in it and potentially win a
What an
major,
art.
compete for a
That's the
major
stuff that
trophy
movies
next
are
year.
made out of,
That's going to
right?
be incredible. I think you know, personally, like I've never got it how he hasn't left. Like it baffles me. Obviously, he was close to leaving before Arteta came in, but to me, like it baffles me how he wanted to stay in the summer after he's received so much abuse and everything. Didn't really seem like he enjoyed it. But lately, as I said, he's been playing with enjoyment. He said in his interview, he clearly loves Arsenal, and that's why he's not leaving. It's not a case of being comfortable. It's not a case of money. It's just a case of he enjoys it here. And there were some people that were like slandering him in the summer and say he wanted to leave, he wanted to go to Roma, he was flirting with Mourinho like that. But you have to understand him, and clearly he loves the club. Maybe he saw it as a good opportunity to change, but he stayed. He put his foot down and said, "I'm staying," and he's leading us back to the promised land. And I'm so happy for him, and I'll be eternally grateful to him for the contributions he's made. And I don't think he's an Emirates legend or anything, but I think he's one of the most consistent players we've had, and a really good midfielder.
Yeah, mate, and you know what? I think that's a lovely way to kind of tie it up because look, guys, we're almost an hour in. I know that a lot of people are looking for the Champions League, so I do want to let everyone go.
Yeah,
We all want to watch those things, so we'll kind of tie up last minute thoughts essentially. But look, West Ham have zero center backs in between their Europa League. It's a really good time to face
yeah,
them if you had to pick a time to do so, and really to kind of follow up. So that's 2 wins on the bounce. You beat West Ham. That's another rival. I talked with Kern
yeah,
about it too. You know that
yeah,
that kind of meme where there's the Lord Overture that's just slaying each team. There's through the doors. We've slain
Through the
United.
doors, the Grim Reaper with the
The,
doors.
yeah,
Grim,
yeah,
the Grim Reaper. We've slain United. Now it's time for West Ham, which, by the way, I think
yeah,
are pretty much out. If I'm really being honest with you, but this will be the final nail in the coffin when we do
yeah.
beat them. And the next one is Spurs, lads. But I mean, yeah, last minute thoughts, I guess, from you, Curran, on the game in general.
I mean, for me, I think we've said what we can say about the game. I think, for me, I think if we're gonna apply a man of the match, I would have to go with. I mean, it's hard. Maybe Mo. I think that Mo would be someone I would say. I think I was happy to see Tomiyasu back. I think someone mentioned it. Yeah, Yo-Yo mentioned it in the comments. The little cameo. I just did Ronaldo at the end. You love to see it. Running it back to his Bologna days. But in terms of the top four race, I said it on Twitter and I'm going to say it here. I really feel like going into the Spurs game, we have the opportunity to be 5 or maybe even 7 points ahead of them going into that game. I think Leicester have something for them. I just feel it in my gut. I feel like we can see that they can maybe do something. Maybe they can do something for us, but we'll have to see on the day. We just have to focus on ourselves. Focus on ourselves. Focus on West Ham. Focus on Leeds after, and then the big one, as people are mentioning it and trying to make it out to be like it's going to be some sort of decider. I don't think it will be. I think Spurs have let us back into it and really put the nail in their own coffin by dropping these points when they had the opportunity to go ahead. And I feel like their inability to break down the low block is going to be what they're undoing. I feel like with Fofana back and etc. There's an opportunity there. So I'm not going to go too far into it, but West Ham, we've got to go. I know they've got Conference League, etc. Leicester, and West Ham have Europa League, but let's see what happens. I think we just have to focus on our games. And the last thing I'm going to say is, we all told you about Man United. We got ridiculed for it. I'm not
Yeah.
going to hear
Yeah.
anything from any Man United fan. Go and choke on it. Go and get your Eric Ten Baldy and get out of here. I don't want to hear anything from any Man United fan. Go and focus on your own rebuild, because you know what? You're basically Emery. End of Emery. This is what you are. This is the end of Emery era for you. If you can do something with this and move on, great. But at this moment in time, I don't want to hear anything from any Man United fan. Don't talk to me. Talk to West Ham. Talk to Brighton. Talk to Wolves. Okay, those are the man you are competing with right now, to quote a famous Tottenham fan. So done
Well,
with them.
there,
Done with
there
them.
you go. I think that's all there is to say.
Yeah.
Nick, mate, thank you so much for joining us. We love when you come on. Really
Yeah.
good friend, amazing analysis. I just want to give you a chance to shout out your socials, mate.
Yeah. So just follow me on Twitter. My ad is on the screen, and also go check out. You can find me on the. You can also find it on my bio on Twitter. My website, Football Idealist. We have a podcast there going as well. So go check that out. And I just want to say final words that West Ham to me feels like the biggest game of the season. It feels like if we win, that top four is ours. Unless like Spurs do a miracle and like win at Anfield, but I really doubt it. But I think if we win at West Ham, I'll be like 95% confident for top four, because after that, we have Leeds, which is it's not as easy as it was with when they had Bielsa. Which
Right.
you had the clear formula.
I
It's
love
it's
Jesse
going to be
Marsh,
a
by the
bit.
way.
Yeah, he's a good guy. Yeah, great coach. It's going to be a bit tougher, but then if we go into the NLD with like 5 points gap, I think we're gonna play without pressure. I think we're gonna get a nice little draw, and then it's gonna be done. We're just gonna need like 2 points for the final two games, something like that. I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
So great.
By the way, all of Nick's socials and Football Idealist will be in the description, so please check it out. It's already there, so please do check him out. Great guy.
Absolutely. And you know what? It's going to happen, boys. We've been saying it on BoP here since before the season started. Top four is happening, and I think we are going to see it before people think. I think it's going to be confirmed. It won't be on the last day, as I think a lot of people fear. But
Hopefully,
look,
I don't want a stressful last day at all.
No,
I think it'll
I
be.
don't-
My
I don't
my
think
thing
so.
is at Newcastle. I think Newcastle will be done. I think that will be the day. But that's
Really?
just me personally. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually think it'll be Spurs. I'm not gonna lie. I think Spurs will be it. That'll be kind of what we look back on and really do the Grim Reaper, kind of have it come full circle. But I wanted to give a really quick shout out for a lot of the visuals that we had later at MTJTZ_. Not even going to attempt to pronunciate that, especially with who I am. But thank you so much, mate. Really appreciate those socials. And guys, in the comments, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. Thank you so much for all of your engagement. Make sure you guys comment ways that we can improve as well. And if you do fancy on becoming a member, you can click that little join button that's beside the subscribe. So thank you so much for being on the journey here with us, guys. Big win, statement win for the belief of the team. And we just keep on going, guys. Remember, focus on your own lawn, Let's do consistency and game by game, and we'll take it that way. So we'll be back with you guys probably on Friday for the West Ham preview. So we look forward to seeing you guys then. Thanks so much, guys. We'll catch you later.
Thank you, guys.